Hey guys, I'm going to let some people get in here before I start my video on no-knock warrants. Let me mute my TV real quick, and yeah, we'll let some more people get in. I hope everyone's day is going well. I hope that you guys didn't get too aggravated if you were watching the Common Council meeting this morning. I know I was watching a little bit of that, and good morning, guys. And it's very aggravating when I don't know. The Common Council's been really aggravating me lately, so I'm just gonna get started here on this no-knock warrant. So I want to start. Excuse me. I want to start with the obvious here. What is a no-knock warrant? So a no-knock warrant is issued by a judge for law enforcement officers, and it allows them to enter your property without ringing your doorbell or knocking first. In most cases, law enforcement will identify themselves just as they're opening your door, but not in all cases. That's an important thing to say. They do not do that in all cases. And oftentimes officers that wear body cams, they do not wear body cams while executing these no-knock warrants. And that's another important detail, like in the Breonna Taylor incident. They were dressed in plain clothes and they were not wearing body cameras. So we don't actually know what happened. So I know a lot of you guys are thinking, wait, right? The Fourth Amendment should protect us from this. Because that's my first thought even when I was in high school, and I remember reading about no-knock warrant for my first time. That was my first thought, was the Fourth Amendment. And that Fourth Amendment protects us against from unreasonable search and seizures. Because even with a normal warrant, if the police show up at your house, they have to knock on your door. They can't just enter. So the no-knock warrants are kind of a unique thing. They're put in place in situations where police believe evidence will be destroyed, or where they believe that it is paramount to their safety to not let the people know they are coming in. But time and time again, we see this happening where innocent people are killed because they're in the wrong apartment, or where people actually fire at law enforcement officers when they're in the wrong apartment, and then get charged with crimes because they fired at the law enforcement officers because they entered their property and they didn't know who it was. So a little brief history here on no-knock warrants. So the war on drugs that was ramped up in the 70s and 80s was a big part of what led to the no-knock warrants, right? So in the early 1970s, the federal government made it legal for law enforcement to execute no-knock warrants. So, but here's the one thing I thought was interesting. This is from Washington Post article a couple weeks ago. So, no-knock warrants in the early 80s, there was estimated about 1,500 per year, right? But in 2010, there was about 45,000 no-knock warrants executed in the United States. 45,000. That's a lot, right? So no-knock warrants are very controversial, as obviously a lot of you guys know. There's been a few people leading the fight for a long time. Senator Rand Paul just introduced, or I don't know if he introduced it or if he's getting ready to introduce a new law that would actually federally ban no-knock warrants and no-knock raids throughout the country. And I believe Louisville, I don't think they banned it. I think they put a hold on no-knock warrants for a while. And Louisville and a couple other cities are looking at getting rid of them entirely. Cincinnati, Denver, I believe, and there's a few others on that list. I can give you guys a complete list for that. But I want to talk to you guys about a very specific case from 2014. This is probably the most popular case of the no-knock warrant, and I'm going to butcher this name, and I am very sorry in advance because I have an American tongue and it's very hard to pronounce some of these names. But this involves a child who was 9 months old at the time, or 19 months old at the time, not 9, 19 months old at the time, and they executed a no-knock warrant on his house, on this family's house in Georgia, based on the fact I'll just read it to you guys. On Tuesday, May 27, 2014, in Cornelia, Georgia, a police informant alleged that he bought $50 of methamphetamine from Wayne Thornovia, a 30-year-old dealer at the residence that belonged to Amanda Thornovia, his mother. The dealer did not reside at the house, which contained no drugs or weapons. Though a family with a 4-year-old child lived in the house, Sheriff Deputy Nicky Autry secured a no-knock warrant after awakening the county's magistrate in his home and making inaccurate sworn statements to him. So, police executed the warrant at 2:25 in the morning. The SWAT team breached the door and they fired a flashbang into the apartment, and they flashed it right into the playpen of this 19-month-old child. The child suffered, multiple injuries to the face and chest. He has a complex laceration of the nose, upper lip, and face. 20% of his right upper lip is missing. The external nose being separated from the underlying bone, and a large illusion burn injury to the chest. So he was 19 months old, guys. So that's a no-knock warrant. Basically, they woke up a judge in the middle of the night, secured a no-knock warrant based on faulty information, broke into this person's house, fired a flashbang into a playpen, and injured a baby. Now, there was a huge lawsuit with the county paying about $3.6 million out to the family and the child. And the deputy who secured the no-knock warrant was acquitted of all charges. So that's probably the most popular story you would hear. I know Breonna Taylor's the most recent, so that's what we're hearing right now. That is, I'm going to pronounce this name, and please don't make fun of me. Bokam Savannah? I'm sorry, I have an American tongue, guys. But, so that's one of the ones where it's very popular. That's from 2014, and there's cases going all the way back here. I have pages and pages of cases, and I have more back there on, but I do want to talk about some of these new laws that are passed, because Breonna's law, like I said, I don't think it's a standing law right now. I think it's just a temporary ban on the execution of no-knock raids. And Rand Paul has obviously one where he, this is now, I think, his third or fourth time proposing a ban on no-knock raids federally, using the Fourth Amendment. I know not a lot of people like Rand Paul, and that's okay. I'm actually a fan of his personally. I don't like everything he does, but I think he stands for a lot of things I agree with. In the case of Breonna Taylor, I want to talk about that because that was personally disturbing to me. She was an EMT. This is a woman who dedicated her life to saving lives. And even in her death, I think that this law is going to save a lot of people's lives. So, I don't want any of these people to die in vain. I want us to remember the names. And there's too many cases for me to keep talking about. I mean, here's one. This is a 92-year-old woman that got killed. Katherine Johnson was a 92-year-old Atlanta, Georgia woman killed by 3 undercover police officers during a no-knock raid November 21st, 2006. Assuming her home was being invaded, Johnson fired 1 shot through the front door, which went over the officer's head. Police then fired 39 shots at her and killed her because she thought her house was getting broken into. One officer was convicted of planting marijuana bags in her home, though. And another one was convicted of manslaughter for making false statements and a conspiracy to violate civil rights. And that case was 2006. Katherine Johnston. She was 92 years old. And the stories just go on and on. There's, Hempstead, New York, right here. This is from May 2010, where Ayanna Davis was shot in her breast during an accidental, I don't know how accidental, but an accidental execution of a no-knock warrant on the wrong address. You know, and she was given almost $700,000 out of taxpayer money. This doesn't come out of police retirement money. All this money, these millions of dollars in settlements, all that's paid for by the taxpayers, guys. We pay for that, right? The police need to be held responsible for this. And they're just not, I mean, there's too many. There's too many cases. Just, they're all so similar. You know, but I hope you guys learned something. I learned a lot, and there's a lot more information I have. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about how no-knock warrants and asset forfeiture benefit the police greatly. Because remember, when they execute a no-knock warrant, they're inside your house. That gives them access to anything in your house, even if it's not even if it's not on the warrant. They just got to find one thing related to the warrant, and then they can loop everything else in. So, if you guys do ever get raided, it's very important to read warrants. I don't care if it's something as dumb as your name spelled wrong. You read any warrant they throw in front of your face. One little thing spelled wrong, one little detail, nothing, right? I would love to go over more and more of these stories with you guys, and maybe we can figure something out where we can break down stories like this more often. But it's a beautiful day out, and guys, it's just, there's so many, and a lot over and over again. It's weird to say, but it's Georgia. A lot of cases out of Georgia. I don't know the exact numbers, but man, there are so many cases out of Georgia. It's a little insane. But I hope you guys take care. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys as always. Tomorrow we're going to talk about asset forfeiture and no-knock raids and how they benefit the police department and how they're basically illegally stealing your stuff and profiting from it. And yeah. All right, guys. You guys take care. You guys have a good day.